Okay.
Okay.
You can raise your right hand and repeat after me.
Okay.
I, Paul Rouse,
I, Paul Rouse,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and will obey the laws of the United States
and obey the laws of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state,
that I will, in all respects,
in all respects,
observe the provisions
ensure the provisions
of the Charter and ordinances
of the Charter and ordinances
of the Town of Bucksport,
of the Town of Bucksport,
and will faithfully discharge
and will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
Town Council Member
Town Council Member,
of the Town of Bucksport.
Town of Bucksport.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Not good.
Now roll call.
Mark Eastman.
Here.
Paul Rad.
Here.
David Key.
Here.
David Key.
Here.
Peter Stewart.
Here.
Paul Bowden.
Here.
And Robert Carmichael absent.
Okay, item 3 is presentation of any town council recognitions. We do have a Mr. Richard Campbell will talk about Wilson Hall.
Good evening. My name's Dick Campbell, resident of Warrington, and I represent District 130, which is Bucksport and Warrington, and I'm proud to say that I represent the two best towns in the state.
Which of those two is best?
This one's number one. Thank you for having me tonight. Just thinking on the way down that I got an interesting history with this building. I remember standing here one night when I think you were concerned about the value of the building, and I'd just come off a project down in Bass Harbor with an old brick building that was falling off into the ocean. And in my opinion at that time, I felt it was a good building. You don't have 3/8 inch joints, you have 1/8 inch joints on the brick. It's all really solid. And once you decided that there may be an option to save it, I got together with Don Houghton and Larry Wall, and you gave us an opportunity to explore it for a year, and we really didn't come up with much. Since then, I think I told you that the reason we had a renewed interest in that is we were looking at the property abutting it. I had two partners in Virginia, John Seitz, who came to the state of Maine in the 70s, wanted to get into farming, and went to Virginia and decided he wanted to build a house for a family member, and became a significant developer in the Washington market. And Jenny Cook, who had some money she wanted to invest. So we formed a partnership. You very graciously allowed us to become developer status for, I think we requested a 6-month and thought that 5 was better. And we've since gotten some extensions. The concept was, as we explored the abutting property for purchase, to maybe then come into Wilson Hall and see if we could develop that as well, adding that to the other properties. We made an offer on that, and it was rejected. And I think the ownership now is settled in, and the previous owner is now operating and enjoying that property, and wants to stay with it a while. In the meantime, we kind of said, well, what about Wilson Hall? So we came back to that, and as I mentioned, I was involved with a project in Brunswick, taking a 44-bed nursing home, converting it to 18 units of aging in place. I had been working with Donna Gormley, who has an at-home service, at-home healthcare service, and she wanted to get into a location, a facility. And so we worked with her for a while, and she decided not to. Her business wasn't quite ready for it. We explored 2 other providers of the service, one statewide, one of the largest one, Origins in Ellsworth, come through Bucksport, knew the market. And the project wasn't big enough for him, so that's when we decided to put an addition on. That really didn't go anywhere. I got a lead from your economic development director about the local provider of services. It was too big for him, and I think he'd looked at the building before anyway. And I was just talking out loud, and there was some interest from the person who had developed the units in Brunswick. Since I think there was a letter to members of the town that she wasn't interested anymore. So I still have a passion for the building. That's what originated, and I just hate to see it come down. So in talking to people in town, the thought is, okay, maybe it's not the services provided that's going to help pay for the $1 million to improve the building. So we began to explore market rents. We sort of retreated back to the original building. We've got 4 one-bedroom units on each floor and 2 two-bedroom units in the rooftop with balconies looking out over the... So we have 10 units. So we've most recently been exploring market rents, and they'll be pushing the market up. We don't know if the building can support higher end units, 1 bedroom, 500 square foot. The rooftops, 2 bedrooms, 700 square foot, with a balcony overlooking the river, a little bit more. So we've been running our pro formas. It looks like we might be able to make it. Thin margin, risk, real risk. So today I had a meeting with John Egan, CEI, about the financing, specifically the tax credits, which would help bring it down to where the pro forma works. It's still, they were figured into this last one, and it's really tight, high risk. At the same time, talking to John Seitz from Virginia, we're talking about exploring another element inside the market rents to maybe increase that to shorter term. I talked to one of the board members at Maine Maritime this morning, and they don't know what the need is for housing for these people. But if we could compete in short-term properties I've got in Orrington, we're involved with the Traveling Nurses Program, which it's a full-service move-in. Here's the key: live for as long as you want. We've got leases up to 3-4 months from Traveling Nurses. And it's interesting. I was down on the waterfront, and I just saw some friends from Bangor walking down through, and went down to the cruise ship down there. I said, "Oh, is you on a cruise?" He said, "No, we just love coming to Bucksport. Would love to have a condominium in Bucksport." Not to say that this project is what they would want, but there's a whole lot of interest from the outside, focusing on what you've done so well and correctly here. It's become the destination town for dining, walking. It's just a really nice town. And with the development that you've got going on the mill site, it's the town that we believe is about to explode. So I checked into my developer status. I think we've got till early in October. I'm here to tell you that we're that close, but nothing's a guarantee, and we expect to keep pursuing it. I have talked to a previous commissioner at DHHS. She's given me a couple names of some people in northern Aroostook County that has kind of gotten into this concept of the residential environment with elements of at home or not so much assisted living, but services provided to people who have rentals. I guess the government subsidy in housing is tied to licensed facilities. She believes that that tendency or the trend is to go away from that, maybe separate them, get people their residence reward or finance without having it tied to. I think it's kind of a way to control the costs for the individuals. So I think what we had thought about is the direction to go in. I don't know if I can find a provider that's interested, but we're still trying.
Question on that, you said Donna Gormley, and with hers, was it too large for her? Would this smaller concept maybe be a little more her style?
She's got a great business, and it's
Yep.
all at home, in home.
Sure, yeah.
But I think at that point when we first started that, it was a little too much for her business model.
Yeah.
I've been working with people in the finance piece, and they know her as well, and wanted to visit with her also.
Mhm.
But it wasn't the right time for her business model, I guess.
Okay.
That's how we left it early.
Okay.
But maybe in this period of time, she might be able to take a look at it again. But there are several at-home services, a la cartes, that we might be able to meld.
Mhm.
I don't think she was ready for management of a facility.
Right. Yep.
But maybe her at-home pieces can work into this facility where it's rental.
Right.
People live there, and her at home. So I haven't revisited that.
Yep. Okay.
But we have a short fuse. We're running out of runway, and we know you want the building back. So soon we'll have run our course and report to you everything that we've learned. And after today's meeting, we might even have a proposal to you for purchase and sale.
When does your preferred status expire?
Somewhere early
The
October.
12th, the
Is it
12th of
12th?
Okay.
October.
You hope to be back before that?
Definitely.
We have a council meeting on the 11th.
Yeah, so we'll give you our final report on the 11th.
Okay.
And anything we've learned, I'd be happy to share with you, and maybe there's somebody else that wants to do it. But my passion has always been to save that building.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience?
Ooh.
Thank you.
Anybody in the audience have something to say? Yes, please come up and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Gloria Parkhurst, and I've lived for 53 years with Wilson Hall staring me in the face. I'm getting sick and tired of it. I say to take down the steeple and repair it. Take Wilson Hall and tear it down, put this and fill it all in, put the steeple right in the middle with a pretty little fence around it. Then you could put a few picnic tables around, or a few benches, and make it into a park. And you could sell the doors, the brick, if somebody wanted to buy them, and maybe whatever windows that are good in it. And let me see. There's still a few trees you have to take down because they're going to fall into the cemetery. But I think it would look nice.
Okay. Thank you.
And the thing is, it wouldn't cost as much. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I need a railing. My name is Pearl Swenson, and I live right across from Wilson Hall on the other side where she does. And from my living room window, I look out at Wilson Hall, a beautiful building. The problem is, I can measure the tower from my window, and I can see that it's shifting to the left from where I sit. So my question is, what will happen in the meantime? Are there plans to take the tower down to save that roof before everything goes?
The tower is contracted to be removed by October 9th.
Perfect. Thank you, that answers my question.
Any other questions or comments about Wilson Hall? Yes, sir.
Jeff Hanley, code officer. I just want to clarify what the town manager said. It's not the complete tower that's being removed. It's only
It's
the
the
upper roof and the 4 posts are going to be cut off at the bottom of the post, and the boxy part of the tower is going to stay.
What we talked about at the last meeting.
Yes, yeah. And that, by the way, is scheduled to be done on or before October 9th.
Okay, thank you. And that's, are they planning on putting a tarp or something over that too, the box that's left?
Well, the remaining part will still have a roof, if you want to call it. It's not a watertight roof, but there is a structure there that will help keep snow out anyway. So there's no plans to cover that right now. Once the upper part is sitting on the ground, I'm thinking that it might make sense to cut the columns free of the roof, because I'm concerned that that won't be a stable structure to leave alone, and it might be subject to vandalism. So I'm thinking of disconnecting all 4 posts and protecting those. Those are, I think, the most important part to preserve in that building because of the students' signatures that are scrawled in it. And then just laying the roof on the ground.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments about Wilson Hall? Yes, ma'am.
I live in Brooklyn. I think a park is a great idea.
Any other comments? If not, we're going to go on to item 4, consider minutes of previous meetings. We have the minutes of September 13, 2018, Town Council minutes. We also have the Finance Committee minutes from September 13, 2018. How would the council like to proceed?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and seconded to accept the minutes from September 13th for the Town Council meeting and the Finance Committee meeting. Anything further from the public? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we're going on to item 5, receive and review correspondence and documents. I don't believe we have anything. We'll go on to item 6, ordinance to be considered or introduced. We have Chapter 5, third reading. Anybody got it? Jeff?
Thank you, Jeff Hammond, Code Officer. So this is the third and hopefully final reading of Chapter 5. This has been a long process, one of the longest review processes I've been involved with. I think the first work on this was done back in January of this year, so it's been a long process, and it's been thoroughly vetted by starting out with the Ordinance Committee. Now it's become the Regulatory Review Committee. We met earlier this evening and to consider some hopefully final last-minute changes, and those are changes that address accessibility oversight. We have made one change that will now require stairs and landings that are for public use to be subject to permitting. Currently, those are only subject to permitting if you're in a shoreline zone. So that's one change. And the second change is to recognize that compliance with accessibility requirements can be subject to inspection as part of a permitted project. Also, in that document, I informed the committee that Appendix K will be amended in the near future to add a review standard for the planning board and code officer to use that pertains specifically to accessibility. So that, I think, was satisfactory to the senior resource committee members who brought forward their concerns about making certain that accessibility is more adequately addressed in our ordinances. So just to refresh your memory about what the whole ordinance is about, Chapter 5 revision, I'll read through the summary of what changes there are. The proposed amendment includes reformatting the chapter to be consistent with other reformatted content in the town code, changing administrative procedures, recognizing the various codes and standards enforced by the town, clarifying when a permit is required, adding permit exemptions, adopting standards for tiny houses, removing property maintenance standards and demolition standards and relocating the standards to a separate chapter of the town code, providing for a local appeal process, providing for waivers, clarifying enforcement procedures, and updating definitions. So that's, in a nutshell, what we're doing with Chapter 5. The property maintenance standards and demolition standards are put into a brand new chapter of the Town Code, Chapter 13. The committee has also reviewed that and is satisfied with the content of that. They've gone through the 2 readings. So the next step for this council to address is holding your public hearings on both Chapter 5 and Chapter 13, if you're satisfied with these last-minute changes.
That will be it.
Make
Next council meeting.
Well, you can, under item 12, you can set the date for the public hearings on both of those.
Okay. You coming back up here? Any questions?
But we have to, there needs to be a motion to have a public hearing.
Yes,
'Cause
under
presently we
item
don't
12,
have to-
it says
Oh, okay,
set
we'd do
public
it- okay.
hearings. Yep. You can-
All right.
Okay, any other questions from the public? From the council? Yes, sir.
I've, going forward on this public hearing and so forth, but just in general about the idea of reformatting and updating. We've been going at this, I missed a couple meetings, but I watched them on TV, and we've just been going at this for a long time, and I use the word convergence, how we've tried to shorten or reformat some of the ordinances that are already there, and I think that it's, in a couple occasions, it's really taken us down into the weeds, whether it be the talking about scooters and toy scooters versus scooter for disabilities, paper or plastic, and the fact that what we've got now is local municipalities, one's talking about burying glass and the other about burning recyclables, and here we are talking about paper or plastic, and then there was a third item that escapes me right now, but I'd really like to think that we should be able to take a break from this, from get away from this convergence stuff and get back more to our strategic goals and renew our focus. At the beginning of the year, the town manager came along and said that there's only one difference between what I had for strategic goals and what the town manager had. And number one was to work to keep our mill rate in order or lower it if possible, maintain our full services here in the town, even enhancement if possible. And the town manager had the third strategic goal of people resources in the town, pay increases, etc. My third would be smart growth. We've done a lot of things of change over the last 3 years. With, we're basically a multi-million-dollar operation here, and we've done new things in terms of leasing and other things to steady out our cash flow instead of having all these large spikes. So I just like to, that's my 2 cents. I'd like to put on hold some of this reformatting and updating and get back to some of our strategic stuff that needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, and we'll take that up later on about when we set the public hearing. Item B is Chapter 2, Personnel, Section 11, Employees' Responsibilities, second reading. Jeff, have any comment on this?
That's me. This is the language that makes the town code consistent with the town charter in terms of who is eligible to not only serve as but run for council. At your last, 2 meetings ago, this is the second reading, and we will have this public hearing scheduled for the next meeting as well.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll go on to item 7, discussion items for manager's clarification or direction or council discussions. First one being Infrastructure and Property Committee update for 9/27/18. Who's the chairman of that?
I was tonight. Had a large agenda. We didn't get through it all. I'll talk about that in a minute. We had a couple pieces of property that were, we contacted the butters because there were small pieces that we hadn't we'd had up for public sale prior. Nobody bid on those, so we had the abutters come in, and we were able to pass those on and get them back on the tax rolls on a couple fair properties. We have a request to purchase a lot out to Long Pond that the town owns. The decision of the committee was to bring that before the council to put it out to bid. There are several abutters that, again, may want to look at that, but I think they'll be able to work that out. We talked about those drainage issues that we had that were brought to our concerns. One was Main Street. The engineers have come up with a plan. I think, is that a committee thing that we could send that back to, Sue? Or keep it there again?
It would, you could discuss it further at infrastructure before you make a recommendation to the council.
I think being the first blush on that, I think we decided to keep it at the committee for one more time, just so everybody get a look at it. That was the first glance I think a lot of people had at that. The plan is a good plan. It's just an idea of spending some money to get it done. And Richard talked about folks looking at one of the pieces of property that this would affect, that we may be able to have some takers on that if we get this fixed. So if we put that on the next committee meeting, look at that again. Forest Hills, the issue that was there, the drainage issue, again, was looked at by the engineers. The recommendation was to have the school fix their detention pond, clean that up a little bit, and hopefully that will alleviate some of the issues that have been happening with backup and things like that. So the homeowner was here. He was satisfied with that. He's doing a couple things on his own end to try to mitigate that. So we've got that going. We have pushed forward to the next committee meeting, Woodland Heights Safety Committee recommendations and a sign update from the CEO. We didn't have time to get to those, so we'll grab those at the next meeting.
Okay. Any questions on any of that from the public? If not, we'll go on to item B, Finance Committee update for 9/27/2018. Mr. Key? You're the chairman, right?
I am. And we talked about the entities that come in during budget time to talk about how much they need, what funding they'd like for the town to end up giving them for social services, and how that was to be calculated. And it was thought by the committee to pass along to the council that maybe to base that on 0.75% of the property tax commitment, which would result in a cap of $54,485. And based on last year's commitment, and 50% of the property tax commitment would result in a cap of $36,322.88. And also, one of the things that the council had talked about was kind of restricting this social agencies to things that directly impacted on Bucksport, primarily from Bucksport, not necessarily some of the county things that we've supported in the past. So that's kind of where we were on that, as I recall. Anybody have anything to add to that? And that was our recommendation to the council. We do think there's value in funding these agencies that provide a lot of services that people otherwise would not have or not have access to.
Is there going to be a written policy that we'll act on?
Well, I think there probably should be. I don't know that we have that right at the moment. But
the part of that has been reviewed previously. The adding an overall cap was what was, but there will be a draft that goes back to finance for approval before it comes to the council, to look at the whole thing altogether rather than just the pieces.
Okay. Any questions on that? Or concerns? Okay, we'll go on to item C, Regulatory Review Committee update for 9/27/18.
Yeah, I can do that. As Jeff mentioned just a few moments ago, revisions were proposed for the Chapter 5 building codes, and the codes and standards have been submitted for review. Section 6.1.2 is amended to remove stairs, landings, and ramps for public use from permit exceptions, and Section 7.2 is amended to clarify that accessibility improvements are also subject to inspection. The members of the committee voted in favor. All in favor.
Okay, now we've brought up to the full council also.
That that a few minutes ago, the chapter 5 things
Okay.
that Jeff was
Okay.
talking about.
Okay. All right. Any questions on that? Concerns? Okay, we'll move on to item 8 with the agenda items. First item being to approve resolve R 2019-17 to sell map 47 lots 7 and 8.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the sale of lot 47, or map 47, lots 7 and 8. Anything further from the public? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item B, to approve resolve R 2019-18 to apply for an MDOT grant to add diesel fuel to the marina.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolve. Anything further from the public? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Going on to item C, to approve resolve R 2019-19 to loan RSU 25 funds for the gym floor replacement project.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolve. Anything further from the public? From the council?
Yeah, quick question. Oh,
No, go ahead. We'll make our way around.
all right. What percentage rate do we get on our money now? Because looking at this, it's about a 1.5 return.
No,
I got
we're,
$33,000 in interest on $235,000. There's only about 1.5.
the interest rate on this to them is 2.5%.
I understand that, but what we're getting back in interest is only $33,000, according to what this document says at the bottom of the page. And $33,000 on 235 is only 1.5% return.
I'm not sure that's getting to that, except that the interest is paid annually, reducing the,
It's paid twice annually.
yeah, which
Which brings down.
means that they don't owe $235,000 every payment.
Well, what I'm
It
saying is, if we
reduces-
have that $235,000 in our account, earning 3%, we're losing money.
Well, we don't have 3%. We
That's
have-
what I'm asking. What do we get? Are we getting 1% or?
We have CDs expiring at the end of this month. They're getting 1%.
Okay, that-
We have 3 of them. The renewal rate is I still have them coming in, but it's around 2% or a little bit higher if you want to go a much longer term. 2.5% was 0.5% over what we would generally be earning on funds. We wouldn't put anything away for 10 years under this.
I understand, but just the raw numbers, we're only getting 1.5% back on this 235,000.
But the payment that comes back will be invested as they make a payment and the money comes back to us, it goes into an investment and gets interest. This is what they're paying us. As they make payments, money comes back to us that goes into investment that earns money. You see what I mean?
I don't, I'm sorry.
If you're acting like this $250,000 is missing for 10 years, and it's not.
But the first year, we only have 20,000 of that, so we're only going to get percentage on 20,000, correct? They're going to pay us back 23,000, whatever the number is, each year.
They've leveled the interest payment, and they've made it the same payment
23,500 each year.
for all those years. So if in the first year they pay us back $20,000 in principal, and they're only paying us interest on the balance, that $20,000 that they paid us back is over here earning interest because they gave it back to us. and the next year they give us back 20 more, and that goes in and earns interest that's aside from the money that they're still paying interest on. So it's not like the $250,000 is tied up in a box for 10 years with no ability to get any interest on that except the money that they're paying us. Every year we recover part of that to earn interest in addition to what they're paying us for the overall bond. And if you factor that amount of money in over time, you will gain back the rate that you're
Thank you.
talking about. Okay?
No, I got it.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor, right?
No,
Just,
no,
one more
I
on the
have
table, right?
questions. You,
No, go ahead.
your question satisfied? This amount of $235,000, that's spread across the entire RSU. That's just not Bucksport's piece.
That's correct.
Okay. So here's my question. Bucksport, on the school budget, we have 3 other municipalities plus Bucksport. So Bucksport handles about 60% of the school budget. Is that round numbers close enough?
5860, close.
5860, okay. So here's where I'm coming from. If the proposal is to do $235,000 to replace the gym floor, times 60%, which would be the Bucksport portion, it comes down to $141,000. Where are the other 3 municipalities involved with the RSU? Where is their kick-in? The way I feel right now, and what I've been thinking about, is the taxpayers in this town are paying twice for this floor. The reason being that originally the taxpayers, including myself, we put aside this puddle of money, whether it comes out of a rainy day fund or whatever budget it's going to be. That money came from taxpayers inputting the puddle of money over there, and that's over there. Now, that's on the front end. If you look at the back end, whatever we're doing here, if they come along and they put that into the budget, well, who pays the budget for the school? It's the taxpayers again. So we've paid up front, and now we're going to pay at the back again. To me, it's double taxation. What I'd rather see is we just, Bucksport, pay the whole 141 and get it over with. The other problem I have with this is I'm just a simple mechanical engineer. I'm not a banker by any means, but I did watch Bloomberg yesterday, and they're saying that the prime has gone up 2.25. They're expecting 1 more increase this year and 3 increases next year. We have no provision in here for any of these rates. I mean, if you walk down to any of the banks on Main Street right now, I'd be surprised if any of them would give a deal similar to what the town is coming up with here. And it's only going to go up. The point is that 5, 7, 8, 10 years down the road, depending upon where the prime rate goes or whatever the economy does, we could be really losing a ton of money on this deal. So if we're going to go with this, and right now I'm not in favor of doing it, to be quite honest, we need to put a CPI, Consumer Price Index, or a PPI index in there that will adjust the rate over time. Otherwise, I think we're on the wrong end of this deal. But I go back to my original point. I think we're being taxed twice on this deal. Why don't we just go ahead and pay the 141? We have over $6 million in our 80-day fund. Why should we go through all this effort? My 2 cents.
I actually have something different to say about this, and I disagree. I think they need the money. I look at it this way, is that we can go into, well, we pay 60%, we pay whatever. My kids went there, I went there. Everyone, well, a bunch sitting here went there. My grandkids are going to go there. Me personally, I would just as soon give them $235,000 and be done with it. Personally, because I do agree with you that we are paying ourselves back. Okay, because my tax money next year is going to go towards that payment coming back. Just like everyone else in this room. me personally, it's something that's needed. It's been needed for however long that school's been open.
I'm not arguing
And-
about
and-
that, it's the
and-
payment of the, I totally agree, we gotta get this thing fixed once and for
But
all.
I guess my point is that I don't care about 3 communities, whatever. That's my school. That's, that's my grandkids' school. That's my kids' school. And if it needs it, you know what? You're right. You just said it. We have $6.2 million. To be honest, $237,000, it's a lot of money. Okay, it's going to take me years to make it. But in the realm of things, it isn't a lot of money. When you're talking $6.2 million, okay? And I think, to be honest, the town over the years, okay, has wasted more than that
Well,
over the years.
I just think that the time that I've been on the council, I've seen that in a lot of cases that it all falls down on Bucksport's shoulders, whether I've heard the Chamber of Commerce come in here and make statements that we provide this, and then it goes down real low real quick. One of the other committees that I served on, it was all basically on the shoulders of Bucksport, and 3 other towns were providing next to nothing for it. And I think that has to stop. I go back to the idea of the strategic goal of maintaining our mill rate or lessening it, and Bucksport has to worry about Bucksport. It has nothing to do with replacing the gym floor. I'm totally in favor of it. It seems to be just an absolute ongoing problem that hasn't been remedied, and it's about time to take care of it. But I just think let's get it done. The economy is just I don't have a crystal ball for where interest rates are going to go and so forth, but my 2 cents.
Us giving them 200, us not taking a payment is what I guess I'm saying. Are we gonna have to shutter our doors tomorrow? I mean, it's $237,000 out of $6.2 million for the community, for the kids in the community. I just
Go ahead.
The school didn't ask for the gift, and the discussion that started this wasn't Bucksport solved this for us. That's not how this was presented. That has not been the discussion. It was a discussion that in looking at financing this project, the rates that the school was seeing on the open market, plus the need for a legal opinion, which when you add in the cost of that is thousands of dollars to that, is that at the end of the day, we're going to be, the additional cost of that borrowing through that would not end up being less than what, or any more than what this over 10-year repayment of this money to the town is. And it was one more, in the same way that we contract with RSU 25 for IT services, and we pay them a contract, and that contract is part of our budget, and so we pay for it when we pay the school budget, and a percentage. Those things have been seen as cooperative efforts, ways to do things smarter by doing as much to create efficiencies as possible. And when this was initially discussed by the council, their direction to me was to put an agreement together with the superintendent in order to move this forward because of that fact. It's not the goal wasn't for the town to make it more expensive to do than they could have done on the open market, because that doesn't benefit anyone. And if the amount of money had been more than $235,000, it wouldn't have even been on the table because of the degree to which that occurs, but it's only on here the way it is because that's what I was directed to provide to the council, was this agreement that mitigated the cost to them, but met what we were seeing for current interest rates for the town. So,
But with the IT services, we budget that to give to the school doesn't, we don't get taxed again by the school budget.
you certainly do. That the school budget includes the cost of the personnel
But
that
we're-
they.
But we're giving them that money, when I saw that money that we gave them wasn't plus their whole cost for that.
Their overall budget includes the cost for sufficient for personnel for that. They have income from us for that, but the overall budget for
IT,
their
correct.
IT is.
Correct, but our piece of it is income to them that is coming off for another end, so, correct?
I'm not sure it's a wash, to
I
be
thought
honest.
it
They've
was.
added
Okay.
2 people. But anyway, the point is that when we started this discussion, it was about a cooperative effort for the school so that it didn't have to expend the thousands of extra dollars that it has to expend in order to borrow. Councilor Godwin is talking about a direct gift. That's never been.
I understand that.
anybody's.
I know they never mentioned it. I know they never asked for it. They never anything. I guess that's just my feeling. Okay, I mean, say what it is, but, and I agree with Councilor Rabs. We're paying ourselves back, so why even worry about paying ourselves back? Okay, we're going to get 0.25% from Orland. We're going to get 0.25% back from. Me personally, I don't. That's just. It's about the. It's about the kids. That needs to be done. That needs to be done. So 30 years from now, that floor is up there, and my grandkids are up there. I mean, that's my point. If we have the money, it's not going to put us. It's not going to affect our tax rate or our mill rate. It's not going to do that. I mean, since I've been on the 4 years that I've been on the council, this would be my easiest decision. Yes, it's a lot of money, 100%, probably the most money I've voted on, but it's a no-brainer. It's for the kids. It's for the community. A lot of people benefit from that up there.
Yeah, but there's no reason not to have the other communities pay back their portion of it.
I'm not saying that, but I think we're taking more of a hit than getting that little percent back, personally, because he said it.
That percent's almost 40%. It's 40%.
I mean, I just.
That's a chunk of change.
That's what it is. I'm sorry. Now I'm going to spell
Well,
Yeah, the other communities need to pay their fair share. Yeah, sure.
that's my 2 cents, Ray. That's fine.
If they go out and borrow the money at, say, 3.5%, 4.5%, we're going to be paying that back through school funding. I'd just soon have some of that come back to us, and 40% of it comes from the other communities that use the
I'm
building.
all good with it. I just said my piece. There's a panel of 6 here. There's a motion on the table. If it gets passed, it gets passed. I'm all for giving the money. That's fine, but we're paying ourselves back. I agree with Paul.
Jim,
We got a motion and a seconded, right? I'm going to open up anything further from the public.
There's a lot of use of the word we and you and them.
Mind coming up and...
Yeah, no, I don't mind at all. There's a lot of reference here to we and them and they. I'm pretty much standing on both sides of that fence. I think it's us, both ways. We're the ones paying it back. We're the ones that are loaning it out. We're the ones paying it back. Why are we charging more money to pay it back than we loaned out?
Well, there's 3 other communities that are paying that back also. 40% of what's coming back is coming from other communities. Okay, go ahead.
Paul Bissonette, I'm a citizen of Bucksport. A lot of numbers have been thrown around tonight, and I'm a little concerned. I think what we need to remember that we keep sight of here is that over 40% of that will be paid back by the surrounding communities in the RSU. That's where the money, in terms of where the town is making their money. The other thing we need to remember is that the cost with going out to borrow that money for the RSU would be higher. I'm not a banker either, so I can't speak to those costs, but I do know that those costs would also be higher. I think this is a good deal for the town, and I think the RSU would pay those back, and that's where the savings would be, and that it would force the other communities, Orland, Prospect, and Verona, to pay that back, their fair share.
And the main thing, that payment would be coming back to the town of Bucksport as opposed to going to a bank somewhere. Any other comments from the public?
Question. Was that 250 the total cost of the floor? No. It was more than that, right? It was up over 300 and something? It was up over 300 and something thousand for the floor?
I think they've got it done. Well, go ahead.
They had 75,000 in reserve funds that they were utilizing for that project, yes.
Anything further from the council? Okay, all of those in favor? Opposed? 3-3.
Motion fails.
So that means it's a no vote.
It's a no vote.
Yep. All right. Let's go on to item 9, resignations, appointments, assignments, and elections. I don't believe we have anything. We'll go on to item 10, approve a quitclaim deed for David Carlo, Senior, map 33, lot 66, and map 33, lot 67. How would the council like to proceed? Motion approved. We have a motion and a second to approve the quitclaim deed. Anything further from the public? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item 11, town manager's report.
The town of Bucksport and Main Street Bucksport have been selected to receive the 2018 William F. King Jr. Downtown Champion Award. The award is being presented at the Maine Development Foundation annual meeting on October 25th in Portland. That coincides with the council meeting date, and I'm asking to be excused for that evening so that I can go with our Economic Development Director to receive that award. The International Maritime Film Festival, a reminder that the 3rd Annual International Maritime Film Festival is happening in Bucksport this weekend. There are 16 films being shown, and 5 of the filmmakers will be in Bucksport for the event. Also, Main Street Bucksport is holding a cider pressing event on Saturday, October 6th from 11 to 1 p.m. on the waterfront near the marina, and everyone is encouraged to stop by. And finally, it says it's attached, but it isn't, but you all have an email from the Bucksport Y Director, Nick Tomasco. The middle school after program should be starting after winter vacation, and the leadership program in partnership with RSU 25 should begin in late fall. He reports that volunteer recruitment is up significantly this year, that the summer camp program was well attended, that youth football is in its first year with the Bucksport Y, that $300 worth of bike helmets were distributed at no charge during the summer to children who arrived at the pool without head protection, and that the Bucksport Y has hired a full-time membership director to handle in-house registration and other administrative duties. And the only other item I have is an item for the infrastructure committee, which is speed limit on Bucks Mills Road and the truck limit, weight limit policy on those roads.
Okay. Any questions on the town manager's report? If not, we'll go on to item 12, set public hearings or hold public hearings and approval of any licenses or permits. We have to set a public hearing for reading of, for discussions on Chapter 5 and 13.
And Chapter 2.
in Chapter 2, and that will be at the next council meeting. Okay, you also have to set a infrastructure committee meeting.
We'll do that.
Okay. All right. There's no licenses, right, Kathy?
No.
Okay. Okay, this, item 13, discussion items not on the agenda for the council and the public. We'll open it up to the public first. Yes, sir.
You mentioned some lots, I guess, going up for taxes, like that one in Long Pond. You mentioned it now. Is that the one they intended to put in a landing there at one time or other? Holding on to that? What we did for the Silver Lake boat landing, we were able to get $160,000 for that landing. And then also the Inland Fish and Game Department was approached too to help out. So it's a matter of money. Has anybody ever applied
It's
for?
a matter of the lake itself. There's not enough room there. It's not deep enough.
I'm kind of familiar with that. Now, at first, they were going to put it right between those guardrails where Charlie Downs camp was, and Skip Williams, but we changed our mind because that was so steep. In fact, they were going to take
This
it.
piece of property is landlocked, way down.
Is that, could that be in another town by any chance? That end of the whole lake is in the township of Bucksport?
This piece we're talking about is.
Yeah. So that'll wipe out any chance of putting a landing on the lake. I mean, on the
No,
pond.
there's other properties there.
Yeah.
That's the property piece that we own.
We don't have access to it, Frank.
We don't. Shoot. I thought we were going to get a land there someday. I really did. I was hoping.
We looked at another piece to purchase, but we weren't able to buy it.
Okay. First time we looked at it, we looked at actually the stream going out of it.
That's the other piece we looked at.
Except there was one big rock. If I remember right. If we could have moved that, we could have had a land in there. But anyway. Okay. That was my 2 cents for it. Thank you.
Any other discussion items for the public? We got one right here. Go ahead.
So Main Street Bucksport is going to hold this just apple cider pressing on the waterfront. We had filled out a festival permit that I expected to be heard, but maybe we don't need it. But we had asked to use public land near the marina, and I've talked with Mike about that. So it sounds like maybe we just need council permission. I'm not really sure, but we had filled out a permit that we thought would be heard at tonight's meeting. It's happening not this Saturday, but next, from 11 to 1.
Is there a permit required for that?
I'm not sure.
The activity that's being proposed, as I understand it, is just a 2-hour cider pressing that's available. People, members of the public can bring apples to this location on the waterfront and have their apples changed into cider. I didn't think it rose to the level of needing to be licensed as a festival, but I informed Brooke that she does need to have council approval to locate on the waterfront.
Move approved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the Main Street organization doing a apple cider squeeze.
Pressing. You don't.
Not an orange.
Whatever. And it's 2 weeks from this Saturday?
Yeah, October 6th from 11 to 1.
Okay. Any comments from the public? Any further from the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion items?
Hi. Sorry, Don, you want to go first?
Go ahead, Richard.
I'm going to first speak as Rich Rotella, Economic Development Director of the town. I want to let everyone know that the construction has started on the town pier as of today. So I'm pleased urging the public to stay away from the area that's roped off because the deck is not there. Please heed all warnings. And number 2, Rich Rotella, 32 Woodland Heights, banker with MBNA, Bank of America, and the branch here at Camden National Bank. I hope the council will reconsider and maybe work different arrangements with the RSU in regards to the loan to for the gymnasium. For the reasons that were discussed.
I was going to suggest that perhaps we put that on the agenda for the next council meeting again and bring Jim Boothby in.
I think that'd be a great idea, but if I could leave this for everybody to think about. You have debt that you need to pay off. You have 2 options. You can pull from your 401k and pay yourself back the interest, put the money in your pocket. Or number 2, you can borrow the money from the bank and put it in the bank's pocket. The only loss in the entire situation is the fact that we're taking business away from a bank. Thank you.
Well, time out. Time out. Rich?
Yes, sir.
I'm not proposing that my comments before and the way I voted had to do with, I just as soon take the money and get the floor done now, not spread it out over a loan. We have money in the rainy day fund, or whatever budget item that the town manager feels fit that we could take out of. I'm not saying not do it. I'm not saying find another way to get a loan. I'm saying pay for it right now.
I agree with you, and this is not an attack on anybody, but I'm just giving you another perspective for anyone who may have been on the fence that we don't want to
I
do.
just don't want folks out here to think that I...
It wasn't you, and I did not address any councilors, and I wouldn't.
I'm not taking it that way. I'm just saying that I want to take money that we have and take care of it right now, not get any loan for anybody, and have the other 3 municipalities contribute their part, or if, because of the way their governments work, if we have to pay it out and they pay it back to us, so be it. I'm not against the gym floor. I just don't. I just think we're taxing the front end and we're taxing the back end. I'm done, Tom. Thank
No
you.
problem. And then I just have a question about how is this going to impact the ballot question for the RSC. This is on their ballot question for this November. And as of right now, there's no agreement at all. Will there be time to get that in time for this November
Council
referendum?
meeting before we appeal it. Oh, no, we don't.
I'm supposed to have the ballots this week.
Can I make a motion?
Thank you.
We have 2 meetings in October.
Huh?
Hang on a second.
Oh, yeah, this is just September. We have 2 meetings in October.
But her ballots have to be done.
Ballots have to be 30 days prior to the election, and they have to be here next week, October 4th. And the school is already in the process of making them out. They have to have them.
Okay, we're in the middle of discussion items here. We've been discussing RSU. Does anybody else have anything to say about the RSU right now and the funding for the gym floor? If not, I'm going to open it up to Mr. White, who wanted to have a comment. We can come back to...
Don White, Town Farm Road. I just have a couple of thoughts or questions about our current landfill transfer station stuff going on. It's my understanding that currently we take our recyclables and they go to a recycling facility in Lewiston. Is that correct?
Yes.
Our trash goes, our hopper trash is being landfilled at the Casella facility in Old Town. Is that correct?
No. It was. It is now being taken to EMR, a transfer station in Southwest Harbor, and it is transported to Norwich Walk under the bypass arrangement that the MRC has for waste until their facility comes online.
So is it being landfilled there?
Yes.
So it's being...
At Norwich Walk, yes.
So it's not being burned for energy anywhere at this point. PERC could provide that to us, and I know there's been a discussion. Is that still open to the town of Bucksport to, instead of having our trash dumped on the ground or landfilled, is that an option for us until Fiberite gets its act together?
That's not a current option offered through MRC without violation of the contract that we signed for the disposal of waste.
Some towns have violated their contracts, is that correct?
Blue Hill did initially and then went to landfill, to transferring to Juniper Ridge. I'm not sure what their status is at this point.
When is the Fiberite facility scheduled to, I know they've been pushed back and they've had some snafus in construction. Is there a reasonable guess on when they're going to have that thing going?
I don't have that information.
Do you know of any considerable problems that the developers of the Fiberite plant has had in its past developments?
That has been discussed, yes.
Have there been significant problems with their development?
There have been problems with projects that has been, yes, sir.
Okay. So we're still locked into waiting for Fiberite to maybe get their facility going. Is that correct at this point? And there's no way out of this for the town of Bucksport?
Not until January of 2019 when the MRC has the option, if this project is not moving in the way that it's supposed to do something
Right.
alternative.
Okay, so we have it's an open-ended situation at this point with Fiber 8, waiting for them. They were supposed to be, what, in the spring of this year? Was that the original date that they said they would?
April 1st.
Yeah, okay. And there has been acknowledged problems with the development of the Fiber 8 facility, and in their past developments. I think that's something that I've heard about, and apparently you have too, Susan. Just another question. Fiber 8 is supposed to be state-of-the-art facility that can deal with just about any kind of recycling issues, including organics. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you know the technology that they propose to use for that?
Specifically, I can't cite that to you, sir.
Is that a conveyor belt situation where you have people separation?
I don't believe that that's the...
Thank you for your time. I think there's, just from what little I know about it, is the developers are having significant problems. And just for the town, I'm sorry that we're just throwing stuff in the landfill and not going and having it at least trash to energy at this situation. Thank you for your time.
Okay, any other discussion items from the public? Discussion items from the council? Yes, sir.
Here, let me follow on to the previous speaker's conversation. I went back and I pulled the monthly report for the transfer station going back to July of 2017. At that time, we still had Orland on the books, so to speak. And we were doing 5 trips for Bucksport for 84 plus tons, 5 trips for Orland at about 24 tons. We had 4 zero-sort recycling trips going on at that time. Now we come to August of 2018. We've got 4 trips total for Bucksport, 75 tons plus. Orland has gone away, so we went from 84 tons down to 75 tons in roughly a year's time. And on that same time, we've gone from 4 trips, zero-sort cycling, down to 3 in that year time. Okay? So my concern is like yours about the tipping fees and the cost and so forth. And I can tell you that as a member of the Solid Waste Committee back in March of 2016, myself, town manager, and other councilors went and had participated in presentations for both MRC and PERC. And at that time, being part of the committee, I wrote a report about the riskiness and the reward or fit for the prospective project up here going on. Under the technology, I'm going to not read the entire report, but under the technology risks at the time, I identified that it was a very aggressive time frame to be ready to receive municipal waste by April 1st of 2018. I said it was a high-risk proposition, and the question became, will the technology work on a commercial or industrial scale? And that it hadn't at that time proved itself so far. The pilot plant facilities down in Virginia, which had been an ongoing pilot from 2008 to 2009, they were roughly bringing in 5 tons of trash a couple times a week in a very pristine operation and demonstrating to folks that the process would work. Fiber 8 had never built a commercial scale project in the U.S. or Europe at the time. They went into an Iowa facility converting a corn ethanol plant that was supposed to produce what they called trashanol and ramp up to 640,000 tons. They missed multiple deadlines and repeatedly announced plan changes. And finally, they mothballed the garbage to ethanol, and they described it, quote, as very difficult at the moment. So, in the conclusion of the report, in June of 2016, I wrote that the economics of the proposed process remain unresolved and therefore uncertain. given the relatively low profit margin, the volatility in the recycled materials and biofuels markets, and the capital required of full implementation of the process. I didn't have a crystal ball back then. I wish I had bought lottery tickets. If I did, I would have enhanced my retirement plan, but I didn't. But I noted in there, the bottom line is, I believe it's in the town's best interest to continue our association with the Orrington-based PERC facility and not place our tax dollars on a proposal that remains highly speculative. So let's move up now to September 12th of this year. The Ellsworth American writes, in the face of a shrinking customer base, Penobscot Energy Recovery Company is turning to new methods in order to increase efficiency and reduce cost. The improved processing capability means there is less landfill material, including non-processable items and ash left over from the incinerator process. It's also allowed PERC to lower its tipping fees from $84.36 per ton down to $75 per ton. Although the fellow up there also noted this is partially attributable to recent staff reductions. Now, one of the things they've got going on, and I've chatted with people up there that are in the facility, that they brought on these 2 grinders, and what they do now is they're able to they're double grinding it, but they're getting it down to it's more manageable to burn, and that's part of the reason too why they've become more efficient. So, initially scheduled to open April 2018, Fiberite has seen numerous delays in construction, although it expects to open in the fall. So let's move on now to September 18th, Fox 22 News. Company officials said while they're making progress in construction, they don't have an operational start date yet. I find this hard to believe that an outfit like Chinbro would not have a project manager who can tell you right to the day when this process is going to come online. These project managers control the budget, the timing, and these big companies incentivize these project managers to bring that job in on time, on budget, and increase their gross revenues as much as possible over the course of the job. So for this CEO to make that statement, I find that hard to believe. They said the front end of the facility will be complete by the end of this month, but the back end construction could stretch into next year. They showed a film of the structure up there. The back end was a dirt floor with nothing on it, okay? The real question is, do we want to take the whole plant and finish the entire plant so we can get to the more waste sooner, said Craig Stewart, the CEO of Fiberite, or do we want to break it up and just run the front end of the plant? This, to me, just strikes of money, financial cost, just my opinion. And it goes on to say, so while Fiberite officials say they could start operation by the end of the year, an exact date is still up in the air. I'm losing faith that this process is really going to, I'd like to recommend to the council and the town manager that we revisit this situation, the tipping fees, the logistics involved. I mean, I'd like to get an all-in price of what it costs for us to trailer truck, cost of fuel, driver time. We're coming up on winter months. You know, in the middle of November, we're worried about plowing snow, putting product on the road. Are we going to have a DPW guy driving a trailer and have to call a reserve guy in to drive a snow plow or put down product on the road? We're just a few miles down the road from Orrington. And worst case of all the options we have to get rid of trash, we're at the very bottom right now, putting things in a landfill. So with the price of commodities, biofuel, no buyer for the fuel that they're talking about up here, I just go back to my the economics of the proposed process remain unresolved and therefore uncertain, and the volatility of the markets and the biofuel markets, I really have doubt in the implementation of the process. So, my 2 cents. Thank you for listening.
It sounds like there might be some options as of January.
Pardon me?
We'll have some options as of January as far as the contract that the MRC signed with Fiber Right.
I think we should take a very, it won't be me, the next group should take a real serious look at that.
As to the concern of additional costs, I will tell you that we have been reimbursed $110 an hour for all time over and above the cost of going to PERC, and that the tipping fee has been kept at the $70 an hour, $70 a ton amount that was agreed to as part of the contract. There's no, although it's going to EMR and there's a higher rate, there's no, the town is not paying that cost, and the additional cost for personnel and time is at $110 an hour for all of that, which is then reimbursed. So dollar and cents wise, that is, which is not really your issue here. I just wanted to reassure you that the town has not been paying more than the contracted amount.
Yeah, it's just becoming like mosquito bites. You know, after a while, you get a bunch of bites, it becomes one big welt, and I just feel this welt coming up all of a sudden.
Okay, any other discussion items from the public? Discussion items from the council?
There's a hand out there. Dave?
Yes. I would just like to comment that first time ever, I know I haven't been here all summer, but we can hear you. For the first time in a long time. You can hear every one of them clearly. We haven't been able to for years. We've been listening like this, Diane, because you're up there mumbling. Never mind the mics. That was a lot of our comments.
All right. Thank you.
Is there anything we can do about the floor thing? Is that?
Well,
You have not adjourned the meeting. You can reconsider
I mean,
any.
we've got a ballot coming up. We're not going to.
well, the floor is going to get done.
And we're going to pay for it a different way.
Right, so the whole thing about whether the floor is going to get done or not, whether we finance it or they go out and finance it, is basically a mute issue. The issue is, did the town want to help finance that and basically maybe make some revenue off it ourselves? Because the other communities would be paying us back as opposed to paying the bank back.
Right, but we're paying 60% of the bill to get 40. I just, unless I'm like all wet.
No, that's not the case, is it, Sue? I mean,
we pay 60% of that bill. Okay, we're paying 60% of that money back to get 40% of it. I mean,
you're going to pay 60% of the cost of the $250,000 of this whole project. You're going to pay it anyhow.
No, I understand that part. So the town is giving them the money, okay? Then out of town money, and then four other towns are paying their 40%, right? And then we're paying 60% of that to pay back the town's money. That's how I see it.
It comes down to, does the town get the money back, the interest on the money, or do you want to give it to the bank?
Because otherwise you're paying.
Or why don't we just give them the money? Like
Yeah,
Paul
that's
said.
what I'm saying.
I'll make a motion to give the RSU $237,000 for a school floor.
no, or give them the 60%.
I'm making a motion to give them $235,000 for
taxpayers
a school floor.
Pay more for no reason. I mean, we could, if we want to go that route, we could give 60% and let them finance the rest of it, but we're still going to pay 60% of the repayment.
Yeah, unless, because the other towns, I'm sure, don't have
They don't have a
$6.2 million sitting in the bank somewhere.
And we could wish they did, but they don't.
Now, I guess there's a possibility that you could say, we'll give you our 60% of that, $235,000 right now. Boom. No questions asked. You have to go and make sure those people pay their share of the rest of it.
I don't think that's going to work that way.
It won't. You will then you'll pay 60% of the whatever they have to go, whatever they have to pay, because they're not council-based towns. They would require town meetings to do these kind of approvals, number one. And number two, if the school borrows their 40%, because
we're still going to pay 60% of it.
You're going to pay 60% of that 40.
So we're still not.
We're still losing. Correct.
We're better off just to
I make a
lend them
motion to
money.
give them $235,000 for the school floor.
Yeah, I can't. Can we hold a special meeting? I mean, we gotta resolve this quick.
I have a question.
Hang on a second. I mean, we've taken a vote, and it didn't pass. So do we have to take up an item not on the agenda to reopen it?
No, you can,
It's on the
you
agenda.
make a motion to reconsider because it's,
Okay.
you have not
Motion to
adjourned.
reconsider.
We have a second.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
What, reconsider?
Reconsider.
Reconsider, I mean,
Okay. We got enough folks to reconsider. Okay, now I'll open it up for comments. Go ahead.
Question. The money that the town has already put away, I believe was an over tax payment from the other towns that we had. That was money that could have been given back to the towns, but wasn't.
I don't believe so.
From the RSU that they're putting towards, I'm
There
sure.
was a tax money from the other towns that was an overpayment, and what happened was the town said you can keep it for the floor. So I think what's happening is the other towns have already put some money towards the floor.
I'm not aware of that.
It was-
I'm not
I
aware
remember
of
right
that.
from a budget meeting, the town budget meeting, I think that's what it was.
Our town budget meeting?
The school board,
the school board budget.
the school board budget. Yeah.
So, I don't know about that part, but.
I'm not aware of that they've been paying
Pretty
extra.
sure they said that that we could keep the money, we gave some of it back, we kept the rest of it.
Oh, what that is, those are funds that were received from the state. And a percentage, the RSU returned a percentage of the monies to the communities and retained in reserve for this project that it was state school funding money that came in. It didn't come from anybody. It came from Augusta. It was part of the school's funding appropriation, that extra money that was appropriated by the legislature. That's what that
But the town could have taken it back.
No, the school could decide what happened to it, and the school decided to distribute a portion of it to the towns and to retain that for this upcoming project.
I'm pretty sure Jim went to each town and asked them what they wanted to do with it, and the decision was to put it towards the floor.
It might be where they got the 75,000 that they're talking about.
That is where they got the 75,000.
But that doesn't change the 235.
No, the 235 is still.
Rich, you come back up here for a minute? Put on your other hat, because I'm lost in numbers, I guess. I'm trying to figure out. Tell me why this is a good deal.
Why this is a good deal. Okay, now you got to keep in mind, I don't have all of your numbers. I don't know what the bank rate is. I don't know what the fee the RSU is paying to the bank. We know 60% of the taxpayer dollars from Bucksport to the RSU, 40% come from out of town. If you want to think of it as your budget, as your wallet, as your monthly bills, as what you need to do, the easiest way to figure out, in my experience, you have a bill that you need to pay, and you have two options. You've worked your life, you built up a 401k. You can borrow your money to pay your debt, paying back your 401k, and paying the interest back to yourself. Now, it's not accumulating whatever the interest rate is at that time, so you're not seeing instant gratification. The other option is, I'm going to go get a loan or a credit card, I'm going to pay off that debt that needs to be paid off, and instead of paying myself back the interest, I am paying the money to the bank. I get the 60% that we have to pay. We do that now with the Chamber of Commerce. We've done that in the past with Bucksport Bay Healthy Coalition Communities. There's a precedent set that we've done that in the past. We work well as a community when we work in collaboration. The future of this community is the RSU. They are the biggest economic driver of this town, now and forever, will be. We need to keep younger people here. If we don't fix the gym, we're not going to lose all those kids, no. But I'm a coach. You've all agreed that the floor needs to be replaced. I've coached on that floor. I've watched a basketball game when the ball was dribbled and it just dropped. That's not the issue. The issue is, how is the RSU going to get the money? Are we as taxpayers going to say at the polls, vote yes, we're going to do it, but we're going to give the money to Camden National, Bangor Savings, or Seaboard Federal Credit Union? Or are we going to say, let's lend the money from Bucksport for a Bucksport Middle School, which was built prior to the RSU, built with those tax dollars? How are we going to do it?
I'm going to ask you, because I'm not an expert and I don't know. In your opinion of what you've done before, is this fiscally sound way to do business?
If you're worried about the impact of the market and the interest rate going up, I think there's one other thing. Don and I spoke about this earlier, and I think it may make sense, but to maybe have it where it's a 5-year, with the 5th year, there's a balloon. At the 5th year, the RSU comes back and says, hey, we can't pay this all back. At that time, we review, this is what the interest rate is now. We will extend it to you for another, we'll take what's left over as your balance over the next 5 years, but the interest rate has to be Y, because the rate that we could be earning is X, the rate you'd be paying is Y, and it's only fair to the taxpayers who gave you the money up front is Z.
Would they enter into that, though? Because there's risk for them, too.
There's risk with anything you do. That's why you have a prime rate, where you have a fixed rate, and you have a variable rate. A fixed rate is set. You as a consumer want a fixed rate when the market is going like this. You want an 8.9 fixed, because if that rate continues to creep up, your rate could go up 1/4 point every time the U.S. prime rate goes up, or 1/2 point, whatever the prime rate's going to do. That's what happens when you have a variable rate. It fluctuates with the highest U.S. prime rate with the market rate out there. So if you want to rework the terms because of the concern that the prime rate may jump up 1/4 point here or 1/2 point, the prime rate will not jump up 1 point or 1.5 or 2 points. History is showing that when we're looking at this. Everything's cyclical.
See, what I didn't understand in this initial thing, and Sue helped explain it, I guess it was confusing, is that when we get payments back, that's going back into this fund where this money came from, correct?
That's correct.
And we're going to keep feeding that every for 10 years until we get that. Unfortunately, that was, and I hate to say, we explain ourselves to death and we don't explain what the heck we're doing, because I had no clue that's what we were trying to do, because we're going to get our 235, but we're also going to get payments every year. It's going to go back into that fund. That's going to earn money.
That's correct.
And then over 10 years, that interest is earning every year.
Correct. And the fact is that if you put it out on front, yes, that 100% is coming back. What you're paying the RSU is the 60% of that you would have paid anyway, because all of your initial investment is returned to you. There's not...
You're losing out on the instant gratification of the interest rate right now is what you're losing out on. Of the $33,000, whatever that figure was that Jim calculated for interest.
That was the confusing piece to me, is that's all you see.
That's because it's on a diminishing
I understand
principle.
that, but I didn't, it wasn't explained that, or I didn't see enough where that money that we're getting paid back is going back to that same place.
The amortization schedule that was set that you have in front of you is a biannual. Correct. When I do it for microloans, I do it monthly, so you can see, because that's how the payments come in. The agreement with the RSU will be biannual, so it's gonna, a larger chunk's gonna come in at once.
But the bottom line, that 235 eventually is going to end up right back where it was,
yes,
with interest that we earned on top of it every year. Every year.
According to simple, quick math, you should get plus interest $268,000 to $270,000. So
that's just the payment piece, though.
You're getting your 235 plus you're getting your interest of roughly $33,000 to $35,000. Now, of course, yes, 60% of that gets paid back through the taxpayers of Bucksport, but it's coming back into the RSU that supports Bucksport.
That's where the 1.5 comes in. You're also getting interest on that money for the payments every year. That's the part that I think is confusing. And that's what confused me. It's easy now.
If I were to calculate the interest that you earn on the money that comes back to you every year to add to the...
Correct, to add to your base interest.
To add to that base interest.
Correct.
It would go...
I wish those numbers... I wish we could have seen those numbers as another chart, just because that's probably another $10,000, $15,000.
I apologize. If I'd seen it, I would have created one for you. I apologize, but
And the interest rate of the note the RSU would get was likely going to be higher, so we're going to pay more again.
We're still paying that.
Yes, and they would have to pay that fee. And if it comes down to you...
We're still paying that interest.
And if I make a suggestion, if you want to give them the money as a gift, please take it out of TIF. That is something that I am passionate about. Please take it out of TIF and give it to them if you want to give it to them as a gift.
But we have $6.2 million sitting there. That's the problem I have, is we're going to make $35,000 in interest.
Okay, I'm just talking on the loan. Okay, 60% of that, the town paid back. So I'm not a mathematician. So out of 30,000, you know, I don't know. We're gonna pay. I mean, we're getting we're doing all this for 10 grand, not counting on the interest. I know we're getting interest on that $235,000 that's sitting there right now. I know we are. Okay, but we're sitting here over 10 grand in interest. I'm just. But
Well,
that's
10 grand in interest plus
10 grand in
40% of the.
I know, but we're paying the interest on money that we already paid. That makes no sense.
I think you need to see it written out or something, but that, to me, I mean...
That's why I voted, not because I don't want the floor. Okay? I voted no because I don't want to pay myself back.
So you'd rather just pay an institution?
I would just assume give them the money.
Well, that's not the option on the table, but the option...
I actually made a motion, but
we're going to
obviously
pay
no one
the
wants to...
institution. They're going to do it. Either way, it sounds, and we're going to pay the institution instead of... It seems like we're shooting ourselves in the foot.
Yes, because when it comes down to break up the formula next year for what you're paying into the school, because you may be paying, I can't speculate what the interest rate will be. That's not fair of me to do that, because I don't know. But you could potentially be paying a higher rate towards your school funding, because instead of giving a favorable rate...
And fees on top, all that.
Yes, you're going to lose the instant gratification, there's no doubt about it, and quite frankly, you may upset the banks. Okay, that right there is probably the biggest concern that I have. Is okay, they're a business in town trying to do business. When we do microloans, those guys have to go to the banks first. They have to be declined. I can't give them a microloan to be favorable.
Even if we gave our 60% of the 140, they're going to have to go get that other $95,000 from the bank because these towns don't have it.
And we're going to have to pay it back.
We're going to pay that back.
And we're going to pay that back at 60%. Yes.
I'm going to throw out there, and I know this happened last year. Okay, I work in a community that has other communities that actually more than 3 or more than 4. Okay, Brewer is double what we are. Okay, I know for a fact last year that the town or the city gave 500 grand back or more after the budget. $500,000. Okay, boom, here it is, and I can tell you with probably 90% certainty, they don't have $6.2 million sitting in a rainy day fund. Okay? Because I've had conversation in
Where
reference
did it
to
come
that.
from? They must have raised taxes to get that 500,000.
Not saying they didn't, but we're not raising taxes to do anything. That rainy day fund is there for this.
Yeah, but that should be a different discussion, and that's not one we're going to have tonight, I don't think.
But what do we have that rainy day fund there for?
I'm happy to have a discussion about what we should do with it, but what are we going to do about this floor?
I mean, why have it? Sit there and earn interest?
Anything that speaks to your point?
And not use it for the community?
Doing something with it.
I guess we're all in agreement that the floor needs to be replaced, right?
And do we want to pay the
That's
bank
no
interest?
doubt. That's something we all can agree on. Now it comes down to how we're going to finance it. Do we want to pay it as part of our school budget every year for the next 10 years and basically pay the bank back, or do we want to become the bank?
Or do we want to do the same thing and pay ourselves back for 10 years?
But we're not giving away taxpayers' money that way.
How are we?
What?
We're making ourselves pay ourselves back.
Or we're going to pay a bank back.
I understand that, but either way... Eddie.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Since it's back open, I make a motion to pass the resolve.
Do what?
Go back to the resolve and pass the one we had.
1 second, if I may interject, there's already a motion on the table, so something either has to be seconded or that has to be rescinded.
Right. And your motion was what, Paul? To pay, just give them the $235,000?
I was, out of the rainy day fund. That's what it's there for.
Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay. Anything further from the public? Okay, we have a motion on the floor, basically, and seconded, to give the RSU $235,000 on the undesignated funds. I've already asked for comments. You got something to say? I've asked for comments, more comments from that. All those in favor?
I'll vote yes. I knew it.
All those opposed?
You passed the motion and then you opposed it.
Just to get it moving.
Okay, well, we only have 3 Oh, it didn't pass.
It didn't pass, so
Right, okay.
I make the motion that we pass the resolve as written, to loan the money to the RSU.
Do we have a second? I'll second it. Anything further from the public? Yes, sir.
There seems to be total agreement the floor is going to get fixed, right? There's a problem of 60% and 40%. 60%, several people seem to want to just reach into the account, pay the 60%. There are 3 towns that has to come up with the other 40%. That's not a huge amount of money per town. It's not a huge amount for them to finance. And they don't pay interest if they finance, if they fuck it up. Everybody comes out of the deal with no interest. Everybody ends up with a floor. I rest my case.
The question is, though, is that they are a town hall form of government. I don't believe that they can actually, they have to wait until next spring, I guess, when they have their town hall meeting to come up with the money. So.
And when they know we've already paid it, they're not going to agree to pay it.
Anyway, any other comments from the public, from the council? We have a motion on the floor and a seconded to approve the resolve as presented. All those in favor? Opposed?
Okay. What are we going to do about the meeting on the 25th? 23rd?
Well, I asked to be excused from that if you're going to continue to hold it for, so I can attend the 25th of October.
Okay, just one meeting unless there's a need for another one. Okay, so I guess what's going to happen, we're telling the RSU we're not going to do it. Okay. All right. We on discussion items? Yes. Okay. Okay. Item 14. Yes, sir.
I suggest that we have Jim Boothby come in the next meeting and maybe have this on the calendar again. Maybe Jim can shed some light on it.
From what I understand, it can't be on the calendar because they have to go out to a vote.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay.
And she has to have the ballots by a certain time, right?
We scheduled a public hearing.
I got you.
Posted for that.
Unfortunately, the way that it was presented prior was the council voted to approve this and have me work this out with the superintendent. That was the vote that was adopted by this council, and that's what we conveyed to the RSU. And so this change now in this is, I'm not sure where they go from there.
Okay, item 14, upcoming public hearings, designation of topic for committee assignments. Okay, have we already done that?
I'm going to have infrastructure.
Yeah.
Is that the only one we have?
Yeah, we have infrastructure. There's those leftover items plus the speed limit in Bucks Mills Road.
Want to go with 6 o'clock then on the next one?
I can't make 6 o'clock.
We'll run on that one.
Good.
I think that's the only thing we have to do tonight.
What was the date on that? What was the date on that meeting?
Second Thursday.
The 11th of
11th?
October.
Okay, item 15.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for adjournment. All those in favor? Can we agree on that?